I still remember that day, not because it was loud, but because it was quiet in all the wrong ways. It was a Saturday morning. I had just finished work, the kind of work that doesn't leave your hands dirty, but leaves your soul tired. I stopped by Henderson Plaza, one of those glossy downtown shopping centers where the floor shines brighter than most smiles. I wasn't wearing a suit. Just jeans, a plain black jacket, and an old pair of boots. The kind people stop noticing until you walk into a place where no one looks like you. I wanted to buy a gift. A watch, actually. Not for me. For my son, who'd just graduated from college. First in our family to make it that far. The store was quiet, expensive quiet, the kind that smells like money and suspicion. The moment I walked in, I felt eyes on me. 2 clerks stood behind the counter. Both young, both white, both suddenly very busy whispering to each other. I smiled, nodded politely, and started looking through the glass display. "Can I help you?" One of them asked, tone sweet as sugar, sharp as glass. "Just looking, thank you," I said, but she didn't move. She kept watching me, not like a customer, like a camera. Every step I took, I saw her reflection in the glass, eyes following me like a shadow. Then I heard the whisper. "Keep an eye on him." I tried to ignore it. People like me learn early how to ignore things. It's a skill and a curse. I found the watch I wanted, a simple silver one, the kind that doesn't scream for attention, but speaks quietly of time well spent. "Excuse me," I said, pointing. "Can I see this one?" She hesitated, then looked at her coworker. "We don't take those out unless you're ready to buy." "That's fine," I said calmly. "I am." She studied me for a moment, eyes scanning me up and down, as if she could find my worth in the fabric of my jacket. Then she sighed and unlocked the case. When she handed me the watch, she made sure her coworker was watching too. "Be careful," she said. "That's over $2,000. I smiled. "I'll try not to run off with it." She didn't laugh. I looked at the watch, felt its weight, and then, out of nowhere, a voice cut through the air. "Excuse me, sir." A mall security guard stood by the entrance, hand resting on his radio, eyes on me. "We've had a report of suspicious activity," he said. The room went silent. Customers turned. The clerk folded her arms, almost satisfied. "Suspicious?" I asked. "Yes," he said. "We were told someone matching your description was seen trying to pocket an item." I looked at him, steady, calm. "Matching my description," I repeated. "That's right," I nodded. "Let me guess, tall, black, breathing." He didn't answer. "Sir," he said, "I'll have to ask you to empty your pockets." The other shoppers were pretending not to stare, pretending badly. That kind of silence is the loudest thing in the world. I emptied my pockets. Keys, wallet, receipt from breakfast, phone. He checked them one by one. Nothing. The clerk whispered something to him. He frowned, nodded. "We'll need to check the store cameras," he said. "Until then, I'm going to ask you to wait outside." I looked at the watch still in my hand. "You think I stole this?" "Just procedure, sir." I placed it gently back on the counter. "Then follow your procedure," I said. "But make sure you check all of it." Outside, I stood by the glass doors. People walked past, pretending I wasn't there. Some looked twice. Some didn't look at all. The security guard spoke into his radio, eyes flicking between me and the clerk inside. I watched her talking fast, hands moving like she was rehearsing guilt. A few minutes later, another man entered the store, suit, tie, confidence that came with both. The clerk smiled wide, handed him the same watch. No hesitation, no questions, he paid, walked out, smiled at me politely, the kind of polite that doesn't cost anything. "Have a good day," he said. I nodded. "You too." 15 minutes later, the manager came rushing out, red-faced, nervous. "Sir, I am so sorry for the misunderstanding," he said. "We've reviewed the cameras." "You didn't take anything?" I smiled faintly. "You don't say." "Our employee just misread the situation." "No," I interrupted. "She read it exactly the way she was taught to." He froze. I turned to leave, but before I did, I handed him a card. He took it automatically. Then he looked down, and his face went pale. The card read, Marcus Reed, Regional Director, Henderson Retail Group, the company that owned every store in the plaza. I came back the next morning, not as the man they accused, but as the man whose name was on every paycheck in that building. The mall looked different when you knew you owned part of it. Not shinier, just smaller. I wore the same black jacket, the same old boots. Sometimes the best way to teach someone a lesson is to make them repeat the mistake. The store manager nearly dropped his clipboard when he saw me. Mr. Reed, I didn't expect, please come in. Relax, I said. I'm not here to fire anyone. Not yet. He nodded nervously, eyes darting toward the clerk from yesterday, the same woman who had called security. She froze when our eyes met. The color drained from her face. I'm so sorry about yesterday, she stammered. I didn't realize who you were. That's the thing, I said quietly. You weren't supposed to. I looked around. Other employees stood nearby, pretending to work but listening. I gestured to the break room door. Let's talk inside. The break room smelled like burnt coffee and fear. I sat at the end of the table. The clerk sat across from me, her manager beside her, hands folded like this was church and I was the sermon. Tell me, I said calmly, what made me suspicious? She looked down. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? She hesitated. You were watching the displays closely. And, you weren't dressed like your usual customers? I finished. She swallowed hard. Yes, sir? And that was enough to call security? She didn't answer. Silence filled the room like smoke. I didn't come here for an apology, I said finally. I came here for an understanding. I stood, walked to the window, and looked out at the mall below. People walking, shopping, living. Do you know what it feels like to be treated as guilty before proven human? No one spoke. I turned back. You saw a man who didn't look like he belonged, and you reacted exactly the way this world taught you to. But that doesn't make it right, I nodded to the manager. Call everyone in. We're having a staff meeting. Within minutes, the small store was packed. Cashiers, assistants, even the security guard who'd stopped me. They stood in awkward silence, their whispers fading when I began to speak. Most of you don't know me, I said. My name is Marcus Reed. I oversee operations for this entire retail group. A collective gasp. Some looked stunned. Some just looked scared. Yesterday, one of your team members called security on a man she thought was stealing. That man was me. The room went dead quiet. I let the words hang there, long enough for them to sting. This isn't about me. It's about what happens here every day to someone else. Someone who doesn't have a title to protect them. Someone who can't hand over a business card and make it all disappear. I looked at the security guard. When you stopped me, you were doing your job. But your job isn't to profile, it's to protect, and that means everyone. He nodded slowly, ashamed. Then I turned to the clerk. You'll be on probation for 30 days, not as punishment but as education. You'll be shadowing our community outreach team. Her eyes widened. Community outreach? Yes, I said. You'll spend a month serving the kind of people you were afraid of yesterday. The manager looked like he wanted to sink into the floor. And you, I said, will organize diversity training for every store in this district. Starting this week, he nodded quickly. Of course, Mr. Reed. As the meeting ended, I stayed behind for a moment. The clerk approached me quietly. Mr. Reed, thank you for not firing me, I smiled faintly. Firing you would have been easy. Learning from this, Ma, that's harder, she nodded, tears glistening. I really am sorry. Then prove it, I said. Next time someone like me walks in, don't see what you're afraid of. See who they might be. When I left the store, the mall was buzzing as usual. The same music, same chatter, same shallow kind of peace. But something had changed. For the first time, they didn't just see a man who didn't belong. They saw the man who owned the room. I never planned on going viral. Most people who do don't deserve it. And the ones who deserve it never plan for it. 3 days after that meeting, someone uploaded the security footage. Not just the clip of me being stopped, the whole interaction, the guard, the clerk, the silence that filled the store. By the time I found out, it had already been shared 500,000 times. Comments poured in, outrage, praise, disbelief, the whole circus of online morality. This is how racism looks in real life. He handled it better than anyone could. He should own the store. If only they knew. By Monday, reporters were calling. Somehow they got my name. They wanted quotes, statements, interviews, anything to keep the fire burning. But I said no. Every time, because this wasn't about me. It never was. What happened in that store wasn't new. It was just finally seen. The company's PR department was panicking, of course. They wanted to control the narrative. They called an emergency meeting, all polished smiles and expensive guilt. "Marcus," one of them said, "this story has gotten big. We can use this to show our commitment to diversity." I laughed, quietly, but enough. "You want to use my humiliation as marketing?" They shifted in their seats. "It's not like that," one said quickly. "We just think—" "You think you can sell empathy?" I interrupted. "But empathy isn't a product. It's a choice." Silence. You could hear the hum of the fluorescent lights, the sound of truth making people uncomfortable. That night, I got a message request from an unknown account. A name I didn't recognize. Elena. It was the clerk. "Mr. Reed, I wanted to thank you again. I started my outreach assignment today. We visited a local shelter. I spoke with a woman who said she hasn't been inside a store in 2 years because of how people look at her. I didn't know how much that hurt until now. I read it twice, then smiled. She didn't need my reply. Her message was the answer. The next morning, a journalist showed up at my office anyway. A young woman, mid-20s, bright eyes, voice rehearsed. "Mr. Reed, thank you for your time," she began. "Your story has inspired millions. People are calling you the man who turned humiliation into hope." I raised an eyebrow. "Catchy. You work in headlines, don't you?" She smiled awkwardly. "They want to know how it feels to be the face of justice." I leaned back. "Justice doesn't have a face. It has moments, like the one where someone decides to do better." She paused, typing that down. "So no interview?" "No, tell them to forget my name. Remember the story instead." Later that week, I walked through Henderson Plaza again. Same mall, same floor. Same lights. But this time, it wasn't quiet. An older black couple was shopping in the same store. The clerk, the same one, greeted them with a real smile. Not the kind that hides fear. The kind that comes from understanding. I stood at a distance, watched them talk, laugh, buy something. No security called. No stares, just normal, and that was enough. As I was leaving, a man stopped me near the entrance. A stranger. "Hey, you're that guy, right?" "From the video?" I sighed. "Depends who you ask," he smiled. "Man, I just wanted to say, the way you handled that, that's what real strength looks like." I nodded. "Real strength is quiet," I said. "And it usually shows up when no one's watching." He grinned. "Still, thank you for showing people." I smiled back. "Don't thank me. Just don't forget." That night, I sat by my window at home, city lights flickering like 1,000 small truths. The world hadn't changed. Not really. But maybe, just maybe, a few people had, and sometimes that's how change begins. Not with noise, not with headlines, but with a moment that refuses to stay forgotten. A few months passed. The video was old news by then. The internet had already found something new to be angry about, and I was fine with that. Justice isn't a trending topic. It's a quiet choice people make when no one's recording. That morning, I stopped by Henderson Plaza again. Not for business, just habit. The kind that never quite fades, no matter how many lessons you've learned there. The air smelled of roasted coffee and perfume. The kind of mix that makes malls feel like every other place on earth. Loud, busy, ordinary, until I heard it. A voice. Firm, familiar. "Ma'am, please put the phone down." I turned. At the jewelry store entrance, and the same one, a young black woman stood near the counter. Visibly upset, hands raised slightly across from her, a middle-aged customer. White, expensive, furious, was waving her phone like a sword. "I saw her touch that bracelet," the woman barked. "She put it in her pocket." The clerk behind the counter was frozen, eyes wide, caught between fear and indecision. Then, someone stepped forward. Elena, the same clerk who'd once called security on me. but her voice now was steady, controlled, different. "Ma'am," she said calmly, "I saw her try it on." I was standing right here. "She didn't take anything." The customer frowned. "You're defending her?" "I'm telling you the truth. Do you even know who I am?" Elena smiled softly. "No, but I know who she is. I'm a customer. And she deserves the same respect you do," the woman glared. "This is unbelievable." "I want your manager." "I am the manager," Elena said. And just like that, the store went silent. The customer hesitated, realizing she was outnumbered by decency. She huffed, dropped the bracelet back on the counter, and stormed out. The kind of defeat that doesn't make noise, just exits quietly. Elena turned to the young woman. "I'm so sorry about that," she said. "You don't have to apologize," the woman replied. "You stood up for me." "That's enough," they smiled. A real one this time. No fear, no shame. Just understanding. I watched from a distance, hands in my pockets, a small smile creeping onto my face. When the store cleared, I stepped inside. Elena looked up and froze again, but differently this time. "Mr. Reed? Just Marcus today," I said. She laughed nervously. "You saw that, didn't you?" "I did. I guess the universe really likes full circles." "Or maybe," I said, "it just gives us second chances to do it right." She smiled, eyes bright. "After that day, I promised myself I'd never stay silent again. You didn't just forgive me, you made me see." I nodded. "No, Elena, you made yourself see." I just turned on the light. She looked around the store. Same glass, same shelves, but everything felt different now. "You know," she said, "we started a new hiring program. We're bringing in more people from different backgrounds, and not just to look diverse. To be diverse." "Good," I said. "That's what real growth sounds like. Messy, honest, human." Before I left, she stopped me. "Mr. Reed, if you hadn't come back that day, I probably would have kept being that version of myself." I smiled gently. "We've all been that version, Elena. The trick is not to stay there." Outside, the sun broke through the clouds, lighting the plaza in gold. People walked past me, unaware of the small victory that had just taken place. But that's how real justice works. It doesn't always make noise. Sometimes it's just one person choosing not to repeat yesterday's mistake. I glanced back through the glass. Elena was helping a customer, smiling easily, her reflection bright against the display lights. I turned to leave, my footsteps echoing softly on the polished floor. They called me a thief once, I thought, but maybe that's what it took, to steal a little ignorance out of the world.